Hello, and thank you for using Danomics. In this video, we are going to look at some of Danomics reporting tools. So let's get started. To make a flow, we can simply say File, New Flow, and I'm going to call this flow Log Health Check because that is the process that we're going to be applying. I hit OK, and it brings up a new empty flow, and then we'll add some tools to this flow. In this case, I'm going to add a log input, and I'm going to add a log health check. So I'm going to select my LAS database in the log input, and here in the well headers, I'm going to select my well headers, and then there are a number of checks that are available. I'm going to run all of the available checks, and I'm going to hit run. When we hit run, it'll pop open the jobs menu, and it'll go through the normal process of initializing, running, and then finished. Now the log health check is a special type of tool where it only runs a report and doesn't actually give us an output data type. So instead of bringing in a log database and returning a log database, it's just giving us a report about our data. Let's take a look at that report. To view it, we click on the sheet of paper here. And here's what it tells us. It gives us a summary for each API where it says, this API has gaps in the data. It also has some repeated tails. And we see this repeated for each well, so we can see what the common problems are. We have data gaps and repeated tops and tails on our data. It then gives us a summary of the number of logs of each type that fail each of these tests. And then it gives us a summary of how many total failures there were. So in this small database, for example, we have 38 wells that have internal nulls. So they have data gaps within our data. We have 12 wells where we have repeated tops and 16 wells where we have repeated tails. So this type of information may tell us that we want to run our null repeated log samples tool to trim off the flat spots off the top and base of our wells if that's desirable. Let's look at another example flow. So once again, let's go File, New Flow, and let's call this one Mnemonics Analysis, and hit OK. So once again, to get started, we say New, and once again, we're going to be working on log data, so we're going to start with log input, and then we're going to be analyzing the mnemonics in this case, using the Mnemonics Analysis tool. So we'll need to choose our log database. And then in the mnemonics analysis, there's no parameters that we need to select here. So we can just hit the run button. And this will go through the normal processing sequence again, where it will go from initializing to running and then finished. And then it'll make our report available to us. For a database of this size, this will normally take just a few seconds. Okay, so now we see that it is finished, and we're going to once again click on the sheet of paper icon here. And now what we have is a report that tells us the mnemonic that we have, how many APIs have that mnemonic, the number of curves that have that mnemonic, and what that maps to. So for example, PE_1 maps to the PE curve. SPR maps to the SPR curve, or SPR maps to the SP curve type, and so on. And so we can see that for our wells, which curves are being aliased. We can also see if there are curves that are not being aliased. For example, here we have mnemonics, CDF, and CNTC. These are count rate logs, and they're not something that we use in the interpretation, and they're not aliased to anything in this case. Now, if you see curves that are quite common, so things that fall towards the top of this list, you may want to go in and add those to your alias list. And this is often the case when you're using curves that have been renamed to some company standard. Like, for example, let's say you you prefixed all of your curves with a Z, so you had ZPE, ZGR, etc. Well, that's obviously not a standard mnemonic name. That's something that's specific to your company in this example. And so this type of report would indicate to you that you probably need to go add that to your alias table. And then you could rerun this and see if that has corrected the problem and what curves are still unaliased. All right, so that's an example of two types of informational flows that you can run. If you have any questions about these type of flows and what the output's telling you, please don't hesitate to reach out and contact us at support@danomics.com. Thank you.